When I was young.
Let's start at the beginning. 1830. Joseph Smith arranged what is known as the Book of Mormon out of gold plates that had been buried by prophets. Therefore, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also known as the Mormon Church, was formed. One of the most common misunderstandings is that Mormons are not Christians. However, Jesus is the biggest part of what they believe in. It is right in the name. Jesus is the Messiah. He is the one who directed most of their moves and expansion. The church came with a lot of criticism about polygamy and other unorthodox beliefs. With all this criticism came many threats and even violence on occasion. The church originally formed in Nauvoo, Illinois. However, LDS communities sprung up in Ohio, Missouri, and Illinois. On June 27, 1844, tragedy struck. Joseph Smith and his brother were murdered by anti-Mormon mobs in Illinois. The tension between Mormons and others increased. In 1846, Brigham Young led persecuted Mormons from Illinois in search of religious and political freedom. He led them to find Zion, which is defined by the church as a group of God's followers, or a great place where such a group lives. During the millennium, Zion will have two great centers, Jerusalem of old and a new Jerusalem in America, from which the law and the word of the Lord will go forth to the world. Brigham Young led his followers on a search to find that Zion, or Christ-centered place. An added benefit to America, and specifically the West, would be the people and opportunities that came later. The expansion created more of a draw to Utah to expand its economy. After the trek, members of the church will have pioneered around 350 settlements in the West. In the words of Brigham Young, "We went west willingly, because we had to."
The 6th of February was when the Saints, led by President Brigham Young, left their homes in Nauvoo, Illinois, in search of Zion. After nearly 1,300 miles of walking, the Saints arrived in the Great Salt Lake Valley. These first travels by the Saints were difficult in their own sense, but the real hardship came in the less fortunate handcart companies to follow. These were companies that were issued by the president of the church to help newly converted members cross the plains with cheaper supplies. A handcart, instead of a wagon, allowed for many more of the Saints to go across the plains, but at the cost of having to walk the whole journey. This was devastating to the Saints, and remains to this day a reminder to members of the LDS Church how much its gospel means to them. The Mormon Trail was littered with the dead and wounded who could not move on. The Mormon Trek, this journey of the Saints, not only led to the creation of Utah State, but remains to this day an inspiration for members of the church.
Upon arriving in the Utah Valley on July 24, 1847, Brigham Young profoundly exclaimed, "This is the place." He was right. This was the place where the Saints could be free from persecution and create a religious headquarters that would later change the lives of millions. After arriving in the arid desert land of northern Utah, the Latter-day Saints began tilling the soil and preparing for the building of the Great Salt Lake City, which was named after the salty lake that spread far to the west. At the heart of this soon-to-be great city, they made a 10-acre grid pattern of blocks separated by 132-foot wide streets, which today is known as Temple Square. Immigrants really began pouring into the city during the California Gold Rush and the Civil War. This gave the Mormons an opportunity to trade and become very profitable. However, their staple business was still agriculture. In 1869, the Transcontinental Railroad was finished. Utah was now connected to the eastern and western United States. People came to see the City of the Saints, and others came to mine for copper, gold, silver, and lead in nearby canyons. During the 1890s and on, the ball really began to roll for the Saints and the state of Utah. Because of the flourishing city and state, the amount of members of the church, according to LDS records, has grown to a staggering 15,372,337 members.